send you when it's ready. So this is it, guys. Goodbye, Filippo. Could you just could you guys just wait some 10 seconds in silence, because in the edition part I need to this moment to take out the noise, reduce the noise in the outer city. Okay, so this is it, guys. Good night, and again, I am your friend, your friend. So bye. I would love to be here, but I can't. Bye, and see you.
Okay. Good luck with your new home.
And congrats.
Bye.
Yeah.
Good
Ciao,
luck with
ciao.
your house. Ciao, ciao.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Ciao.
I'm using the back row shirt. I don't know if you had
No.
the opportunity to watch our movie, our Brazilian movie that had a little chance of being nominated for the Oscars, but we just realized that we weren't. So
Yeah, I've heard that it's an amazing movie. Actually, it's
we think so. Many maybe we are a little biased, but yeah, we love our movie, and we thought that it had a connection, international connection, with a lot of public and a lot of audience, because even though I don't want to give any spoiler, but even though there are some North Americans that are killed in the end of our movie is not anti-Americanist. Our movie is anti-Trumpist. Is anti idea of a government, of a type of society that has been in the last years over there. So many North Americans have loved our movie, even though we killed North Americans in the movie. But they did understand it. They do understand the critic of it, the political critic. So I have opened with that because I think we are going to speak a lot of this stuff with your movie, because there is such awareness of self-critic of a country, of government, of alliances, of many questionable attitudes in history. So I think we have just made the field ready for it.
Yeah.
And
I want to see the movie. God damn it.
We can send it to you. We can send it to you.
Okay, cool.
I don't know if you use WeTransfer or some platforms that we can transfer.
Okay. And anything will be super good.
Okay. Joaquin, I love your cat. I saw it in the
It's a she. Loopy.
It's a she. Okay.
It's a she.
Guys, I will be really leaving now. So bye-bye and
bye-bye.
Bye, Moises. Hey,
bye, Moises.
But Filippo, I didn't understand quite well. Do you have a connection with the movie? Did you work in the movie in Bacurau? No. Okay.
It's just I have many friends that work there, and as a country, at least the movie lovers, the film lovers, were cheering, and I was cheering alongside many friends, many good and best friends that were in the movie. But no, I was not in this movie. But I am, besides being a movie critic, I'm also a movie curator, and I do the selection for many festivals here in Brazil. So I have made before selections that involve the movie, and I protect and defend a lot this choice. So I don't know, maybe I feel it like a little bit of me too in there, like many Brazilians did. But once more, we were not quite yet there. At least last year we were. We had 2 representatives in there, in documentary with Petra Costa, that were democracy. Oh no, it was a different name in English. Forgot it. But
Okay.
there is a movie in Netflix. So sorry. I may be, maybe we can afterwards send you some movies, any movie that you like, but let's talk about your movie and how it moved me. Because the first time that I saw your movie was in our festival, Olhar de Cinema, Look of Movies. That was the first time when I saw it, when I watched it, and I was so in awe because, first of all, I have to say it. I love. I as a researcher, I research gender movies, gender in like animation and terror and many types of language, and I'm a great fan of this intersection between animation and terror that we almost can see it around because it is kind of rare. We have some like Perfect Blue that even a novice bought the movie because he wanted to show some some of these scenes in the Black Swan, but we have a few. And someone that I really love, and I think it's my first question, because I am from the movies, like a critic and a curator, and I research this language, I would like to first ask about the influences for the choice of language for the movie, because I have I am a great fan of the work of the, I don't know if I will pronounce it correctly in English, but Sven Meyer, the from the Czech, the Republic, the new wave, the Czech new wave, and he like Otezanek and some movies that he deal with the live action and terror and fantasy and the imagination. And I saw it a lot in there because the house is alive and the house is changing all the time. And it's so magic that we are seeing something that is a real social critic, but also in a vivid artistic way. So the first question is about the language. How was it to choose this language and tell this very true story in a very imaginative way, creative and dreamy-like stuff?
Well, I think that there are like two questions. One question about the influences and one question about the choosing of this specific language. And I think that the first question is about our influences. Yeah, we always feel a bit ashamed of not mentioning Jan Van Meyer, as you said. Like it's you can see a lot of his influence in our work. But to be honest, and curiously, he's not someone we are watching a lot. He's not someone we are talking about a lot. Maybe it's like a some subconscious influence, or maybe things that we very early saw of him shocked us in a very deeply way, and then we kept doing things like that, you know. But you know, I think our biggest influence in film, because we have influences from like visual arts and different kind of influences, but in film I would say it's maybe David Lynch. I think he's the artist we talk about more, and it's more present in our conversations and like in our minds. Yeah, so we feel very identified with him. Yeah, so that's maybe the biggest influence. I don't know if you want to mention, no, but of course
more than one. Of course, we have like, you know, like
man,
we have a list of like 100. I remember like we start to make this like a presentation of images of influences. So that door opens like a complete new conversation, and I think it's a funny one, but it's too big. We also have this. I think one of the thing about Jan Van Meyer, that now that you mentioned him, I remember like for me was Alice. I think was the most like deep punch in the face about his work. And I have to admit that during the production of the Wolf House, sometimes we were conscious about not taking some paths that were too Jan van Meyerish. So, for example, there is no much of the presence of theater. Like we were like thinking, and then we can have a stage. No. That's like Jan van Meyer. We cannot mix like material stop motion with theater plays. It's too much. So it was more like a path that we were trying to avoid. Sometimes it was a 5 years production, so we were not thinking all the time on that, of course. But we have a long list of influences. As Cristobal said, in film, I think I can say like the Chilean, French Jodorowsky, and what else? Of course, William Kendrick was also around, the South African. But for me, I don't know, Chris.
I think in animation, Bruce Bickford.
Yeah.
Bruce Bickford, he's an American animator, and he's like also like a big influence. I don't know, Raúl Ruiz is the Chilean filmmaker.
Yeah.
He's also very inspiring. Some of our inspirations are not very obvious, I think, but it's more they kind of shape our way of thinking, our way of of creating. It's not that you can see like visually that it's like a direct influence. Like in the case of Svagmayer, it's very obvious, but in some other cases, it's more like it's like a more abstract inspiration, I think.
Yeah.
But also like Fishley and Weiss, they are like a Swiss artist duo. And they are super influential for us too. I don't know, there are like thousands. I don't know. As Joaquin said, we have actually a document. Some other day we can show it to you. Like it's like a long list because it's we find also funny making this influence list.
Yeah. Sorry, it's a short list at the end, but
no, not at all. Because I think your answer of the quantity and the quality, of course, but the quantity is something that is very, very important to see the originality of your work, because there are so many pieces that it really feels fresh. It feels like we're seeing something for the first time. And that is something that I got with me long afterwards when I saw the movie. And I continued so because I wanted to see, for example, in our circuit, in our commercial movie screen, but unfortunately, we know that the commercial is very narrow, and we don't see all the movies that we see in festivals commercially, unfortunately, because your movie is something for the big screen, something for the collective experience, is something really new. So I repeat the second part of the question.
Yeah.
How you got it for this language, the animation and the terror?
Okay, I will start with the answer. It's a long one. First, we have to introduce something that is quite important, I think, in the process. It's less and less important, I think, but it was that we are not like filmmakers, that we didn't went to a film school. And we never had like a proper animation course. We had teach animation, but we never went to an animation class. So many of our choices and options are based on our lack of academic approach to film and animation. We are not like we are not naive about it, but we are sort of happy to be free to don't follow the correct path. So we have this rule in our studio. Our studio sounds like we had a Walt Disney studio. Our practice is that we try to transform our weaknesses in something good and like strong, so if we are not able to make a correct stop motion animation, we will do something really wrong. So we are basically, because we are coming from the art field and design also field, we sort of, I think we feel free to choose weird paths paths. But I'm answering really in a vague way. Uh, I think I have to say something more clear, that this film is not, the Wolf House was first a technical idea. So, or more like a, well, it was a name first, the title of the film. We had only the title, but in a way, it was the continuation of some short films that we made before. So, the Wolf House, it's in a way the last chapter of a series of technical approaches. So we were working with this sort of material-based stop motion animation with one shot, like working in real size spaces. So in a way, it was, at some point we said, okay, let's make the biggest version of that we can make. So then we can finish that chapter, like that will be the last stop motion animation in that way that we will do. I'm just saying this to make it clear that it wasn't like that we had a script before and then we choose to make it with one aesthetic or another. The aesthetic or a technical approach came first. I don't know, Chris, maybe you can continue with a more clear
Come on,
path.
you answer like half an hour.
Really? No. You think so? No, but you can say something more.
No. I think it's clear. It was like that. Yeah.
There's
And
something more, just to direct the rest of the question, but you deal with something that we don't have the register, because we do have the papers, a lot of research about it, but it's not like we have you have mentioned a lot of great movie makers. So like Hitchpan from Cambodia, that makes movies about the representation of the memory, since the memory itself is hidden by the dictatorship, by the records that were never totally public.
Are you talking about the missing picture?
Yes, for example.
Yeah.
So we see a representation of a memory of something that was shut down in history. There is something very powerful in representing the memory, the invisibility of the memory of the powerful ones that.
Yes, it has a lot to do. It has a lot to do with that. I love that movie. I think it's. I must say I love more the concept of the movie rather than the movie itself. The movie itself is a bit slow and like, but I think it's lovely. It's like amazing, but it has a lot to do with that specifically because one of the triggers for us to make this movie, it was that we heard about a film archive existing in Colonia Dignidad. Colonia Dignidad is this sect, this sect in which the film is based on. And then we heard about this film archive existing there, but it was a film archive of a mix of kind of self-made documentary films that they made within this community, and some other like kind of news and some other like material footage of spy cameras, like hidden cameras. So a mix of things. But we could not access that film archive, and we were very curious about it. And we said like, what the fuck is in this archive, you know? And then we fantasized with the idea of what would happen if someone finds not a documentary film or not like a register of something, but like an animation film in this film archive. What if Paul Schaeffer, that was the leader of this sect, made a Walt Disney film, you know, like his own vision of like a children film, what that would be. And La Casa Lobo is the response to that. It's like what we imagine. Of course, then it turns into something else, but it's what we imagine that these guys in the sect would have made if they would have made an animation film.
It's incredible to think about that. And so it was developing like that. And since the beginning, it was to show the horror. So it had to have the language of horror, or it was developing the way? Because there are some jump scares, there are some horrific or disturbing
CASA LOBO.
feeling.
Well, it was, you know that before the Wolf House, we had this. We we always struggled to understand why our films were scary. We don't consume. We don't watch much like horror movies, like the traditional horror movies that are going around in the big screen. Uh, but all our film productions were like, or videos, or even the paintings, you know, like everything looks scary. So at some point we said, okay, this is clearly like the not rational part of our work, that we don't know why this goes on in our movies. Hi Cristóbal, you said.
Hi, Cristóbal.
Yeah.
Hola, Dante.
Hola Dante dice. Okay, so the thing is like, because we were conscious that we will do a long film, so people will be looking at our film for like more than 1 hour. We said that we have to kind of dominate this piece, so we have to be conscious about the scary part of our work. So we basically we knew that the film will develop. Dante, estoy hablando. We knew that we were like, you know, like Filippo. His name is Filippo.
Hello, Filippo.
That's it.
Hello.
Anda con tu mamá. He's actually behaving quite well. Well, the thing is like,
he's behaving amazing. I mean, comparing to 2 years ago, he was like
he's doing great. He's doing great. He's a little bit like, wow, you know?
Next, he will be doing the interviews for you.
No, yeah, I know.
Spokesperson.
Well, the thing is like, we're basically going back. We knew that we will make an horror movie. We knew that. So we, in a way, part of our like artistic and script decisions was how to put that in order and not be completely, you know, like abstract scary, or like completely like a nonsense scary, which is always a problem, I think. So that, in a way, that's why it became like a political horror movie. It's also because we really care about the subject, but it was also a little bit strategic. So let's make this horror movie in something with some connection with reality.
If I would have to define the movie in terms of genre, I wouldn't say horror movie, but I would say fairy tale. It's a fairy tale movie. So I think we were never thinking the movie in terms of to scare people, but I think horror is a dimension of fairy tales. I think if you go to the like older primitive versions of fairy tales, you will find all these like like horrific elements, you know.
What is that?
Is that the
Pan's Labyrinth? Pan's Labyrinth.
Okay, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
what
exactly.
you said.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, so that was the genre in which we were thinking the movie, not horror. But of course, then it becomes like a horror movie, and in the USA, for example, it's perceived as a horror movie, and it's in every horror movie's website and list of the best horror movies of the year, you know, like this kind of, because I don't know, it's like also like I think Americans, like US Americans, tend to perceive a lot of in genres and like
But honestly, Filippo, we were really like half of the decision that we were doing, because a lot of the things were being decided in the studio while the process, it was funny for us, and we thought it was funny, and it was, of course it's not funny, we can see that we are not completely
don't
stupid.
worry, I understood, because you can see
like,
the strings, like you can see the strings of the puppet, so it is the strings, you can see how it's made, you can see how it moves. And even though there are a lot of techniques in there, like stop motion and the movement of it, it's kind of funny to see how it can transform and it's magical. It's also magical. So I understand, and I think that leads to another question. Chris has almost touched the question, but just to specify, the fairy tale of it, the folklore. We have the three little pigs. We have, you kind of mentioned Alice in Wonderland, and we have these little doors. So there are a lot of fairy tale signs in there. So how was it to choose statically, of course, but also in a very dramatic way, because they all contribute to the way of the story, to the way in which the story is being told. So how was it to choose and to refine it for the shape that it is?
I think that there is a very important element to this, and I think that the big tradition of like feature film is the fairy tale film. You know, it's like the big, I don't know, if you think in fairy tale, in animation film, you think in Walt Disney, you think in Miyazaki, Tim Burton. It's like it's the main tradition, you know, and we wanted to make our Latin American contribution to that. Exactly, you know, and we wanted to make our Chilean and Latin American contribution to that, to that group of films. And a bit like the question for us was like, it's a way of thinking the film. It's like, how would this Latin American version of the fairy tale would be? And I think it's like, it has to have like a political horror. It has to have like racism, fascism, violence, you know, all these elements, because it's like the reality that we experience in living in South America, you know. So it has a lot to do with that, with this kind of a mixture of our reality and this genre, this or this folk tale thing.
Yeah, I think it's also that I'm more sure about. Basically, I think, and probably Cristóbal agree with this, maybe not, that it's hard to imagine like an horror movie or an horror book or anything that it comes with the attached word of horror coming from South America that is not linked to politics, because it's, I don't know, when I was a kid, we were born in the year 1980, and we were in the middle of the dictatorship of Pinochet. And basically, my of course I was scared of the dark in the woods and everything, but my deepest, I think, fears was going to jail, which is not a childish thing. And I had a really good life childhood. When I was a kid, you know, childhood, yeah. So I had no like real struggles, but still, it's hard to imagine like an horror narration from South America if it's not linked to politics and racism and, you know, like police or violence, social violence. So in a way, yeah, that's a touch. Yeah.
You know, we're in Brazil, we have Bolsonaro, you know.
Yeah, I know. We have a softer version of that, a really softer version, but still, so it's not the same.
I have to relocate the question because I'm putting it from the ludic, from the fantastic side, and for me it's very precious, of course, like Moises has told. I studied this. I have a festival in here that is the Cine Fantas. So I studied this, that is part of FANTLATAN, the Association of Fantastic Movie Festivals from all the Latin America. So this is very dear for me, but I have to touch the history side now. If not, he will be very naughty with me. He will spank me. So let's enter in a history, in a historical, very serious and very heavy stuff. Yeah. That how did you come across, how it entered the project for the first time, the Dignidad colony? How how you became aware of it?
I don't know. You know, our processes are very intricated. I think are very like a straight. We never have like a straight processes and like a very like a line. So we actually don't know, and we kind of always make up stories about how things happen. So and always it's like a simplification of what it really is. So it's I think many things that made us focus on this specific case. But it actually happened, I think, slowly. During we knew that we wanted to make this animation film. We knew that we wanted to work with the idea of a film made by a sect or cult, and little by little. Also, I personally was living in Germany at the time that we were writing this film first. You know, when we were starting writing this. So little by little, we realized that we were talking about this case. It's not something very rare. No, it's not something very strange in Chile. It's something. This is something that that maybe it's difficult to understand from abroad. But like this is a very specific sect, a very specific community, but it has like a very central role in recent Chilean history. They were very important during Pinochet dictatorship. They worked as a like an intelligence agency for the dictatorship. They were very linked with the dictatorship. They tortured people there. They killed people there. They trained agents of the dictatorship in torture. So they were very like a central factor in Chilean history, in the history of dictatorship, especially in the south of Chile. So it was a case that it was in our consciousness, it was in our like mind, because we grew up watching the news about Paul Schaeffer and about this pedophile and about these weird Germans. We both went with our families to the restaurant of Colonia Dignidad that they had on the highway. You know,
we're
when
still
we were
living in Colonia Dignidad. No,
that's not true. That's not true.
That's not true. Sorry.
But yeah, we were related to the subject. And if you see like now in Chile, there's a lot of movies being produced or that were produced recently about the subject. So it is something that it's like in the environment, in the atmosphere of Chile. You know, this subject is not, how do you say rebuscado? I don't know. Like
no,
Understood.
yeah.
It's not that complex. It's more a routine of the culture, right?
Yeah.
It's like everyone knows. Everyone knows. It's a little bit. The only thing about, I guess it's, I don't know if in Brazil is the same, but it's there. Like people know about this, but every certain amount of years it's sort of drained, so it's not there anymore, the memory, and you have to sort of like, no, you know, like the Germans, they were like raping kids and, you know, like building up our like weapons and, you know, like blah blah. Yeah, you still can find some people here that said, yeah, but they were really good for the South and they built up something really good, and we're like, oh my god, I cannot believe they have to go again about this. Still, so it came as Cristóbal said, as a reference first, and it started to like, I have the feeling that it was like a virus, you know, like, well, saying a virus now is like a sort of a strong word, a bacteria.
Oh, but I understood it, including the aesthetic part, because a virus works like eating the parts of what it's consumed. So the house is kind of like that, and when the virus reached the house, you've seen it like a virus. So and it runs through the walls and through the stuff and through the materials like that. So I understand the aesthetic of it. It is kind of like it.
Actually, remember, like when we were talking with the voice of the male voice in the film.
Oh my God! How disturbing!
He said So we were explaining to him the film, and he looked at us and said, "Okay, you want me to be Paul Schaeffer?" Oh, yes, Rainer. Rainer Krause is the name. Okay, yeah, well, yeah, it can be more complicated, but yeah, finally you have to be sort of that. So yeah, it was at the end. It was all over the film, but as Cristóbal said, it was a slow process.
And also there is some kind of appeal to it, you know. Like, I mean, all the aesthetic of these guys is like kind of appealing. It's like kind of a intriguing. Like I don't know, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like this perfect German village in the south of Chile. It's like this little portion of Europe in our own country. You know, there is a Chile is a very, I think Brazil too, but Chile is very Germanophilic. I don't know, like a
We
German.
have some parts of our country that it is.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I know. I mean, you received Mengele. I don't know, like they say. And there are some parts of us that are. I mean, I went to live to Germany for some years. I don't know. I had like a German girlfriend once. I don't know. Like I too been in love with Germany somehow. You know, so I can. Also, there was some kind of genuine attraction to this. You know, like
there is a sentence from Bergman, from Ingmar Bergman, when he went to Berlin and he saw the design, the project of a state. And he said, what a beautiful project. And he thought it was designed to be perfect. So only years afterwards, when he really understood the atrocity of it, that he thought, oh my God, so sorry. I didn't know they were killing everyone else to build that idea of a state. So,
of course.
And it is in one of his movies, like The Egg of the Serpent. So he thought about it, and afterwards he was conscious. So I understand there is something very wicked in the way of a country seeing the foreign influences like a design of a state. But there's something dark in it that is also very malicious. And I understand why Joaquin had said that you always have to remind people it's not only the good part that you see, that is the foreign part, there is a design part, there is the atrocity that killed everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
So I understand.
Exactly.
And how was it to continue the research once it was chosen? Because you are very accurate. You have a movie that is very fantasious, but everything in there is very serious. So how was it to make that fusion?
Well, we spent some time reading. At some point, I had to stop because I was feeling like intoxicated by it. You saw Dante, my son, and he was born in like when we were already producing the film. And I think that mix of like having a little son and reading all this shit about the Colonia Dignidad, it was really like doing something bad in my head. So we were also not doing a documentary, but I think we read enough to sort of feel that we knew the place. Chris, well, you went there, so you can actually.
Yeah, I visited the place. The place is turned into a kind of hotel, kind of resort. It's very strange. Like a third of the population that used to be there is still there. Like, I don't know, 100 people. They still speak German inside, but you can visit it and you can stay there. And so I went a couple of times to make research and to talk to people, and it was very interesting. It was very, very, very. I mean, you know, the most, I must say the most interesting is like that you read about this, all the horror, you know, they lived in slavery, you know, they couldn't get out of this place. No one could get in. They were completely locked down as we are now. And even if they were forced to work from like, you know, like all day long, they were dragged in order to like to supreme to the will of people, you know, that they were completely in drugs, working all day, and even with that they see good things about it, you know. And I was talking to this woman, and she would say, yeah, I mean, this was very bad, but there were some beautiful parts of it. We were very in touch with nature. We were, I don't know, it's interesting to see that, because of course it's bad to see that only the lightful part, the illuminated part, but also it's not good as an artist and as a person to see only the dark side, you know, like I don't know, I'm not defending Coronel Dignidad. I'm just saying that even in these very, very horror places, you can see some kind of like humanity and like light, some kind of light.
Like when Alain Resnais had filmed the Night and Fog, and he went to the camp of concentration in Auschwitz, and it was green, and it had life, and it had trees, and he filmed the trees, and there is life where there were death, and so we can see other stuff also in the on the surface, but yeah, the memory of the terrorists beneath. So I think Joaquin has something to add, but I have a sub question about it. That is about light. Since you talked about so many references for the visual arts, how was it to construct something that is very dark, but there is something like of a painting of this darkness? There is something like you took a brush and you painted a screen in many dark colors, but there is also light. And even though it's an animation and it's very dark, but it's not dark like we can see anything, but it's dark like it's dense. It has depth, and it's profound. And how was it to construct the light in the animation? The light and the darkness, of course.
Okay. Oh, it's, well, one of the references I remember, like when we were like working in this document of references before the film. One was I remember like Rembrandt, the Dutch painter, and I guess we were trying to, not only that of course, but we were trying to have that continuous mix of dark and light all the time in the film. So you have like a center of light and then darkness. Of course, that was in the background. We were like really playing around, but I remember like thinking about that kind of light. One thing that I have to say about the film is that we didn't have like proper like professional lights. We only had like one sort of professional light. We were like working basically with like regular lamps and candles only, or like natural light. So we were really playing around. And so I'm just saying that it is a dark movie in terms of, you know, value, but we were more concerned about the light than the dark. So we were like really like focused on how we will use the light in this scene. And the light is also like a character in a way. It moves and it changes. And so you have two scenes that are only three actually, only illuminated with candles, and then another one that is always changing because it's an open window and so on. So light was all the time there as a big thing, mainly because we were not working with like professional lights, I guess. So we were like trying to figure it out all the time.
I got a bit confused. Were you asking about
Light.
The light and the darkness that you painted the movie.
But you mean like more like the subject or technically?
Both of it, but you have responded beautifully. I wonder the scale. How great was the scale of the scenario? Because
it was
it's everything like actual, like real size, like living size.
Yeah.
Almost everything. I think 95% of the film. There is one small scene that they are like small puppets, but
there are two actually.
Well, two. That's right. Yeah. There are two scenes that they are like small puppets, but the rest are real rooms, like with real furniture, and with living size puppets.
You know, I think I have an answer that links the two questions, the ones that I was trying to answer before, and yours about the light and dark. There is a fact that there is an issue that we were trying to imagine the film being produced by the colony. So we were not like portraying the colony as we know it was, but more like as the colony was imagining itself, you know? So in a way, we were trying to add light or trying to add something beautiful, but the darkness was appearing from every corner. So we were really trying to play that game where you are trying to look normal, but you are having fever, and you broke up like 2 hours ago, and you are going to an interview and try to pretend that you are okay, but you are not. And I guess that gives you the feeling that you are seeing something real because you are trying to pretend something, but you are not able to fake it.
Something else about it, I think it's related with what we were talking about before, and it's you need to love you need to love your subject, you need to love your characters, even you need to love the antagonist and the bad guy in the movie. You have to love Paul Schaeffer in this case, and the Colonia Dignidad somehow, otherwise you cannot make a good movie. I think you cannot make good art if you see only one dimension of things, you need to, and also why would you spend 5 years in a very terrorific subject if there is not a part of it that you really like, that you are really that is that you're in love with, I think you need to have these contradictory feelings in order to deal with a subject, if you love it only and you don't see the dark side of it, you will make a bad film. If you only hate it, you also will not make a good film, I think.
I understand. There are a lot of contradictions that are needed for understanding of this.
Exactly.
I totally understand that. Respectfully, I have to congratulate you even more about the life size scale, because it's very interesting to hear what Joaquin had said about the light, and then I thought most of them were miniatures. I had this idea in my mind, and when you said it was the real deal, a real scale, wow, even more, because to have the light and to work that density with this proportion, congrats. I give it to you. It is huge, because I already love your movie, but respect, real respect. So to talk about
Filippo, would you allow me to share a screen just a little bit, so I can?
Of course.
I can. You have. If you are the.
Of course. So sorry. I am the administrator. So sorry.
Don't worry. No worries.
Here. When you hear something and the mind says something and the body don't respond.
You are the host now, Chris. Wow. So young.
So this is how the set of our first scene of the movie, of the first scene we shot, looked like. So you can see that everything is like real size actuals. That was our studio, you know. We were painting the walls of the studio.
That looks like if we were like puppets animating. But
It's
like
funny to see the masks, because before the pandemic, it was very strange to see these pictures of us wearing masks.
But I imagine the paint, and you deal with a lot of heavy material,
the charcoal,
right?
yeah, the charcoal.
I think glue also, right? There are a lot of stuff there that I think is chemical, no?
No, it was the charcoal have this like heavy dust, which is not really good for your lungs. Yeah.
Oh, this is what I was going to ask you next, because the movie itself is a real installation. You can put it in a gallery that we will visit and have such a blast like it was watching a movie.
Yeah, it was basically more than 12 places that we were basically like jumping from one museum or gallery to another for like 3-4 years. At some point we decided to leave our studio and to make this like a permanent tour of the studio, showing our process and sharing with people and so on. So some are like some of the pics that you are seeing are in our students, some are in residencies, museums, and so on. So
I don't know if Filippo understood this, but we shot the film in museums. You knew this?
I understood.
Okay, yeah.
And it's still there.
No.
No.
It depends. Sometimes we're like real buildings, so yeah, the building is still there. But some were like this, so you have like really disposable, you know, like materials. Actually, this specific one we made it with the trash of the museum. So the museum here in Santiago, this museum have no money to produce the thing, but they have a big deposit of garbage, and so we use all the garbage of the museum to build up this small castle.
Self-sustainable. So
yeah,
that's
recycle.
Great. And other stuff, but people could visit if they. Wow.
That was the idea, exactly, that people could see us working in the film. So like you see, this was the first one of the first installations we made in the Museo de Bellas Artes in Santiago, and people could watch us through this window, and they would see these two guys like working in the film through the window. And sometimes like people would say like, can I get in? Can I animate a bit? I want to learn to animate. And that's the way we got some assistants. Like, you know, like some people stayed working with us like for 2 months or like, you know, so we had a lot of exchange with the audience during this whole experience.
Yeah. I remember one guy, that sent us an email saying that he saw our installation and it was the same image that he had in a dream, like 1 month before. Yeah, that he was sort of like crawling into a room, and it was exactly for him the same place. It was beautiful.
But it is kind of funny that there are a lot of images that you produce that it can't be a dream state, right? It's about what dreams are made of, and I don't do the difference between dreams and nightmares. For me, all of them are dreams. You may like it or you may not like it. You may understand it or not, but I think everything is a dream, and this is what dreams are made of. You may be scared of or not, but this is incredible because you deconstruct reality. And like this, we have some understanding of how stuff are made. It's just incredible to see the work because it is a very big and incredible, I repeat, piece of work. You have worked an incredible stuff that is multiple. It is a movie, and it is let me just. It is a movie, and it is a installation, and it's collective, because many people went there, passed through there, and it is something. I really am more in awe after all of this. But I have a section that we didn't talk about, and it is very, very well built in your film. That we have talked about the character and the voiceover, but how was it to build the sound? The sound design is something really special, because you have written an over narrative that is, you can shut your eyes and you can see a story in the sound. So how was it to construct that? Very elaborated.
Well, the almost all the credits have to go to Claudio Vargas, who is the sound designer of the film, who made an amazing job here. And this is the first film for which he designed sound. Normally, the thing that he makes the most is like a direct sound, like a set sound, and but he had made some like experimental work that we had seen or heard, and also well, he was kind of a friend of us, and also he was someone that who was willing to confront this project the same way that we were doing we would have spent like 5 years doing this film, 5 years of, it's like a long time, and we didn't want to spend only like 1 month or 2 weeks doing the sound in a normal studio. So we wanted to work with someone who would take the time to experiment as much as we were experimenting with the animation and with the materials, and he was willing to do this, and yeah, he made this amazing job. He was working in his place, like we had a decalogue, like we had like our 10 commandments of animation for making the film. Like, well, we can show it to you later, but he made his own 10 commandments, his own decalogue. For example, he said like, I will not download anything from the internet. So he was producing every single sound of the movie, like scratching the walls on wrapping paper, or like with bags, and also with a lot of help from his child. He's like little child, and I think one important decision that he made was like that he would concentrate on making the sounds for the materials and not for the characters, not for the symbolic aspect, that dimension of the film, but more for the material part of the film.
Yeah, there is some texture for the sound.
Yeah, exactly.
For each scene, we have different, a wide variety of textures. So yeah, I sense that.
Yeah, well, basically he took this idea, this fact actually, that in animation you have to build up everything. So you have no real sound or connection. Also, our film doesn't have a lip sync, just one scene actually. So that may also give him a lot of freedom, like you don't have that problem that you have to connect with that character in that point. So we were really building up in 5 years this building of sound, and he was we were having like long conversations and feedback and sending us different stuff. Of course, it was 5 years, but he was not only doing that in his life. But it was a long, beautiful process. Yeah.
Congrats. That is something very special. It's an inner part that we can separate from all of the greatness that we talked about until here. But you were in many parts of the world. You were in many festivals. How was it, the reception I'm not asking about if people loved it like me. It's not something that abstract, but the reception to the impact of the language, the impact of the subject, the identification with the subject that you could see in other countries, or even in German. I don't know if you have
Yeah.
accompanied some screening in German, but I would love to know it.
Well, you have to answer that because you did more the festival.
Yeah. I was touring more with the film because Joaquin has two little children, so it's more difficult for him with coordinating with the family and that. But I don't know what to say. It's like this is the answer that you don't want, but the reception has been great.
Okay, no, I will
No,
give
but
a reminder, Chris. You said something about the difference in every country.
No, yeah. That's something like every you learn a lot, like by touring with the film. You learn a lot about differences of culture. I think, like how I wasn't in Brazil, but I was, for example, in Colombia, in Korea, in Japan, in Germany, and like the personality of audiences are very different. You know, like in Germany, they focus a lot in politics, of course, because also this story is speaking to them, because it's also a part of German history. I don't know, in Korea, they were very symbolic. It's like, what does it mean? What is the meaning of the blue dress of Maria in the
God,
scene
that's
of
so
the
difficult.
bird? Yeah, exactly.
That's almost impossible. Like, I don't know.
What is the meaning of the bird in the cage? I don't know, like this kind of, like in Colombia, they were like, how are your feelings about, I don't know, like, how are your feelings about the childhood of these people? I don't know, like this very, very sentimental, you know? Yeah. So that's something very, very interesting. But I think that the film really, people really connected with the film. I think it's also something very, it was strange for us, I must say. I must confess. Like I don't know if Joaquin felt the same, but when we first showed the film in Berlinale, like the first screening, I thought that everyone would leave, or like half of the people would leave the room 20 minutes. You know, I said, like,
a lot of people. There were a lot. There will be like a massive movement of people.
Yeah, exactly. But I thought, like, this is a very strange film. Only, like, you know, only us have seen the film, some friends, you know, and our friends love the film, of course, because they are our friends and they are as weird as we are. But this is not what I would have expected from other people. So I was really afraid that people would not get it, would not like it at all, you know. And in this first screening, people really like it. Stayed to the end of the film.
It's such an unfortunate thing, because I'm usually always in Berlin. I'm always in the festival. I usually cover it, but I was not there in your year. So I regret it a lot, because when I watched your movie and I knew that you had screened in Berlin, I thought, oh shoot, I would love to see this movie there, because they carry a heavy guilt about what they've done in the world and the inflation. Part of them, no, but part of them, yeah. And especially the part that loves movies. So speaking as one person that usually knows how they react in the festival, I would love to see their faces, because I imagine that their faces dropped.
They were, well, one thing that the jury or the people from the festival said to us in an email was really nice. That they said that what they like about the film, well, they like the film, of course, but what I think what they especially liked, not about the animation, but about more like the subject and the narrative area, is that it wasn't easy to catch the point. Or they said, like, it has so many layers. It was not against the colony, it was in favor, but then you realize that it's not. It's of course a parody, but it has some love with the character. So I think that was something that I guess they were, after all that movies about, you know, like Germans being mean with the world, like there are many. I guess that was, or I can imagine that was something that it was good for them to see. So this is not against us only, us against the influence of Germany after the 50s.
I think it's a catharsis, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
They look in the mirror, there are some shattered parts, there are some ghostly parts, but they can see it.
I think the most difficult screen that we had, I think it was in a university here, where the students were really like, I remember like a couple of students, they were really like, but you are against or not with this group. They were really like, like black or white. I think I understand. They were like, young students from a public university. I mean, a big public university, which is not that common anymore in Chile. And that was, I remember, like we had something like an argument with someone. Like,
I imagine, because kind of like what Chris said about the U.S. reception. The U.S. had no doubt about the. In the beginning of the interview, I apologize. I said it gender. I was going to genre. So sorry, genre of the movie, because in Brazil the word género is for the both of them. Gender
in Spanish too. In Spanish too, it's the same word.
Yeah. So sorry. So you understood, but. They had no doubt about the genre of the movie. So the movie is disturbing. There's something disturbing about the sense of that. And kind of like I would ask the students, but do you like to be disturbed? If you're being disturbed, it's something for you to reflect on. You do not enter a house that is so disturbing to feel like home. So if we had disturbed you, maybe it's something for you to reflect on, because you do not wish to live in there. It is disturbing to live in there. So there are a lot to reflect, of course.
But being honest, it was. I mean, all reactions were good. We had Actually, I had the feeling that the people from the festival were really nice. Like no one says nothing negative. And I said this to someone who works in festival, and she said like, no way. I mean, I have seen like some really horrible like Q&As, like terrible, that they were like asking like, but why did you show the film unfinished?
Even in Berlin, I've seen it. Horrible.
A big surprise for me was the reception, because we premiered we had programmed the premiere of the film in the USA for this year, for the last year, 2020, and of course it didn't happen in like physical cinemas, but we did it like virtually, and it was so well received. I mean, it got many nomination for different awards, and like in every short list of the best films of the year is there, and I was so impressed, because I know that we made like all our efforts to make the most radical and the most abstract film that we could, like, and I'm really surprised that this audience that is really used to a very standardized cinema, a very standardized sea of watching things, like a way of seeing the world, and they could connect with this film. I was really like, wow, this is very special. I think, like, it's because the film, it doesn't work like, I don't know, like the all American films nowadays are very naturalistic. Like the world in the films behave like more or less. Of course, they have fantasy, but more or less like life behaves, But we wanted to make a film about like how the abstraction of the mind behave, like how is the mind of a person. I think when we make films, it's not that we say this like explicitly, but this is what we are doing always. Like it's more like so yeah, I was really surprised that people could connect with it. Like
I remember, like, now you said that, Chris, that you were talking, Filippo, you were talking about dreams, and I think with Cristóbal, we think that films are like dreams, so you should not have something that is not a dream inside of a film, or I don't know if you should not, but in dreams you move from one place to another without much explanation, or you jump from one situation or moral situation to another one, and you can actually transform, like even become another person, and that makes our films really abstract, of course, because we are trying to sort of go into the dreams but not explaining the dreams completely. Of course, anyway, the Wolf House have a regular narration, and too. I mean, you can actually see the film and hear the film, and you sort of catch the story. But
yeah, the narration's linear, but the images are so fluid that we don't get a sense of time. Time is abolished. So
time is abolished. That's a good one.
The narration is linear. We sense time from the narration, but from the image, no, not time. No time. So it's interesting to see that battle between image and sound.
It's
very
true.
Interesting.
It is true.
I know that we have the time, and I don't want to take more time of you both with the family and with all the errands that you may have. But can you speak more about a little bit, at least, about next projects?
Mm-hmm. We are now in the last steps of the production of a short film. It's called The Bones, Los Huesos. Los Huesos, translate the bones. And it's an animation film, a short film. It's shot in 16 millimeters. And it pretends to be the first animation of history. So we came with this stupid idea that the first animation is not European or Russian, it's Chilean. So we are pretending that we are animating with a human body parts. And the subject or the characters are important and right-wing, not that good people from the history of Chile, the Chilean politics.
It's a lot. This film kind of it was a bit of our response to, like, I don't know if you've been following a bit like the recent events in Chilean politics, like the social revolution that we had at the end of 2019, or a bit like 1.5 years ago. So this was a very a huge impact in our lives. Like we were suddenly threw back to a kind of violence and repression and a lot of feelings that of our childhood, in a way, like of our memories, or of the collective memory of dictatorship. And suddenly that was happening again. Now with the pandemic, is everything a bit more strange, more subtle in a way, but but this was a very like a big shock in our lives, I think, or at least for me, and very, very big, I think. And this film was born from that feeling, and in that days, the idea of the film, of course, so it's a bit like a kind of ritual or ceremony, to interpretate or to kind of redirect the energy of that moment.
And the myth of creation, right? Because Chile has a myth of creation, even in many ways, like Alice Guy Blaché, that is the mother of cinema, the first woman to make cinema, and she lived a lot of her time in Chile. So I even remember interviewing Alfredo Castro, that is one of my favorite actors. I love him, loved him. And he said, no, we sense a lot, we sense a little bit like Alice is Chilean, and we have the mother of cinema, and we have a genesis, a myth of creation. So I thought it was so interesting to see like that, and Chile is now in a big part of the world cinematography in respect in language. Not only Larraín, of course, and they all contribute a lot, of course, but there is something being made that is in the very eye of the world. We are focusing what Chile is making. So I think it's a lot of cool to think about a myth of creation that reverse it to there. There are a lot of things that I think is very interesting.
Yeah. Well, and basically we like to do that a lot. I think we are pretentious, I guess, but every project in a way is a sort of not every project, but many projects are like a way of rewriting something from history or something from a technique or something from a tradition like that comes from Europe or the States. So the Wolf House in a way was also like trying to imagine that we were rewriting the stop motion, like the way that you sort of approach the stop motion. It's a pretentious issue, I know. This other one is more like
what I told you. It was a very long-lasting memory for me. I've seen 5 movies in that day.
Really?
You were the 5th, and it was in my mind to this day.
That's good. That's good. So basically, yeah. Then we have this short film that we are trying to rewrite the history of the beginning of stop motion animation, and now we are also we are finishing a script for a future film. We already have the budget, so that's good. I mean, we have the money to produce it, which is not that much, but I mean, it's enough.
Well, it's a lot for us.
It's a lot for us.
We understand.
And it came, yeah. And
no, but I wanted to come back a bit to this idea of the myth of creation and being pretentious of not. I think, of course, it's pretentious, but we are very conscious that we are pretentious, and it's a bit like a comedy for us. But it's also like an act of decolonize ourselves. You know, it's like. I think this is what we are trying to do, and this is maybe one of the most important subjects in what we do all the time. Is like to think all the time. Okay, we can be the center of the world. You know, we will make our own version of the fairy tale film. You know, with our own like cultural references, and we will make our first feature like animated film in the world, and now we will make our adventure film that is our next project, you know. So but try to create our own ways of narrating the world, and also to creating art, you know. It's a lot about that. It's I think it's what it's in the back of our heads all the time when we are making art.
And also, I think it's, well, our other project is, and I will come back to what you are saying, Chris. It's our next future film is a mix of animation, live action, and some like effects inspired in the special effects that were running the world from the 30s to the 70s, 80s. So it will be like a Ray Harryhausen sort of film. Of course, it will not look like that, but I don't want to talk much about the script because it's really now in a turning point. But it's rewriting the tradition of adventure films. So we will make a film that could be produced in the 40s in Chile or in the 70s. We don't know yet, but it will rewrite the history of the adventure. Like we are trying to imagine, what if
can you
go back
repeat the last sentence, because the internet cut it a little bit.
Okay.
Sorry.
We're trying to reimagine or rewrite the history of adventure films, but from Chile today. So
it's very impressive that the film is still so open, but we got the money to do it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. It was a big surprise. We knew this like 1 week ago, and we're like, really? Like, you really think that we should do this movie? So basically, we're going back to the beginning of the special effects history, and we will try to rewrite that. And what I was trying to go back to Chris' argument is that I think there is something quite special in the beginning when you have these technological like moments. Oh, sorry, these moments of history, of film history, that you have a technological change. So you have like Cristóbal showed me a few days ago, you know, like the first 3D constructions that were made in a university in Utah, I think, in the States in the 70s. And then you have Méliès at the beginning. And then you have, you know, like another uh, moments where you have people like building up a world that they don't know the rules, so they are trying, so they're creating the rules. And in those moments you have like 10-20 years in which really strange things happen, you know, like you have like the most weird scripts, the most weird performances, and that moments are so beautiful. And then you start to have this like boring repetition of, you know, this is the right way to do it and blah blah blah. That's why I'm also a big fan of Walt Disney and Pixar. You know what? Like the good Pixar is actually like amazing. They build up things that I don't know how they come with all these ideas, but so yeah, we are trying to. Yeah, you also have that. It's good. So
It's not my
basically.
kid's room.
I know, I know. Don't worry, don't worry. So basically, we are trying to revisit those moments. Also, I'm realizing with the time. I don't know, Chris. Maybe I'm going far away, but
I don't know. It's I
No,
was not
I'm
paying
loving
attention.
it. And I even ask of you, if you don't know yet, our festival, it is the biggest fantasy festival. Fantasy in which fantastic, horror,
yeah.
sci-fi, everything in Brazil. So later on, I will send to you some material just for you to know our festival. It will begin in April this year, but next movies, please, we love you to write in our selection if you honor us with that with that wish. But we are in all to know about that, and we want to keep it in touch because I love your body of work until now. So I'm expecting even more for the next projects, and I think it is important for myth of creations because we are kind of revising our own every single one. Alice Guiblaché is a perfect example because she was not so talked about until few years ago when, for example, Martin Scorsese put her on the Directors Guild of America that she didn't belong before. Something crazy because she made hundreds of movies in there,
Yeah.
and he restored it. So it's something of a recognition, a history recognition, and also something like I imagine kind of almost a found footage because we have many things that were made, but many people didn't know about. So it was almost like a rediscovering something. So it's almost like a found footage of our history that nobody knew and something dig up and found that and watch it and oh my God, this existed. So it
Yeah.
is interesting to deal with that language that you are talking about. I don't think it's that pretentious if we see it in a decolonizing way of history that is found against the history that dominated, and almost like it's a treasure that you can dig up and put it in, under the light.
Yeah,
For
I think
anyone to see.
it's also something very important to, I don't know, I have the impression maybe in Brazil you have a more like solid tradition in this way of thinking. Maybe, I don't know, I'm thinking about like the manifesto, the anthropophagus, I don't know how do you call it in English, manifesto. See, exactly, or Glauber Rocha, I don't know, you have a more like a solid tradition of people thinking in this way, I think. But in Chile, at least after the dictatorship, we've been so colonized, you know, like culturally in every aspect of art and daily life and everything. Like you had so like the 60s and the 70s were so amazing in Chile, like a bubble in Chilean in the history of Chilean culture, you know. And then you have the dictatorship like a like this brutal eraser that blew everything away, and then we need to make these steps of like being very conscious about like decolonize ourselves, like yeah.
I understand. No, we kind of have it like that also, but we also have the decolonization eye because other stuff operating this, like slavery and etc. So it is heavy for us too. But we have something of the revision of history, but we have also this kind of narrowed thinking that we are trying to change also.
It's a wonderful book, the one you have that, like, my favorite thing is monsters, and on the top of your books, it's it's one of the best thing I've read in the last years. It's amazing.
Amazing. And it's all amazing. Drawn in with a pencil.
Like, it's amazing. It's amazing.
I just show it actually in a class as a reference, but I don't have.
It's amazing.
You have it?
You can borrow it from me. Yeah, I have it.
Oh yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I know.
It's one of the best written comics I've ever read. I mean, on the level of Chris Ware, or like, I don't know.
And it's like also it sometimes doesn't look like a comic. That's all the point. No.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Sometimes it looks like almost a sketch work because we've seen the lines of the book,
of the notebook,
of the notebook.
It's so cool.
And
it's really cool.
Sometimes it's like a painting, sometimes like a movie, sometimes like I forgot the word for starting quadrinhos. You have just said it. You understood. I forgot the word.
It's a very good book.
Yeah,
and she's a toy designer, and I mean, this is the first comic that she makes.
Really?
Comic.
Oh my
comic.
God.
Yeah,
that was the word.
Yeah, comic. Yeah. And
okay.
She's been working in a second part, and it was supposed to be published like 2 years ago, but I think I mean, she made a masterpiece, and now she must be scared of.
Oh my God!
I read about it. I'm anxious. I'm anxious too. So let's wait.
Yeah, that's great.
Again, we want to thank you so much. You've done it a lot for us. Even here in the internet, you could share some images. It was something that if we were present, we couldn't be able to do that, and it's amazing to see the work like this. And if later on you want to send a picture of maybe what you said about it before, the rules that you draw for, we would love it, and we would add it in the interview. It's great for us too. So once again, I want to thank you for everything, because you are amazing. Your work is amazing. I think it has something besides just not that I'm saying that a movie is just a movie or art is just art. Everything means everything, but it's so meaningful. So for us, even in Brazil, we have something that it reaches and it touches us. So we thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your words. And thank you for the interview. It was a very nice interview.
Oh, thank you very much. I will just regain the host, reclaim the host for me to stop the recording. Can I?